related to oil pressure sensors and their circuits. In this video, I'm covering P0522, engine oil pressure sensor, circuit low. The oil pressure sensor is a vital piece of an engine's management system. All engines require sufficient lubrication flowing through the engine crankcase and cylinder head to keep the moving components well lubricated. The oil pressure sensor's job is to let the engine control module, or ECM, know of any oil pressure loss. Some of the locations for the oil pressure sensor are on the engine crankcase, oil filter housing, or directly on the external oil pump. This is a typical schematic for a two-wire oil pressure sensor circuit. It consists of a low reference or ground from the ECM and a signal circuit connected to a pull-up resistor. The signal circuit voltage will be either 5 volts or 0 volts. Some vehicles will have a chassis ground rather than a low reference from the ECM, as seen here. Looking at the fault table, a P0522 is caused by a short to ground on the signal line. This fault could be in the sensor, the module, or the wiring. If you have a scan tool, you can check the live data to confirm the fault by looking at the sensor readings. Check battery voltage before testing the circuit. This is to give you a reference voltage for all of your readings. Check for corrosion and any evidence of abrasions or damaged wires on the sensor. To start the diagnosis, set the multimeter to volts DC and set it to 2 decimal places. This will give you a much quicker reading. Disconnect the sensor from the harness and turn the ignition on. Always use the correct test connectors. Test the 5-volt signal line on the sensor harness connector. With the ignition on, the reading should be between 4.8 to 5.2 volts. Connect the positive lead to the signal line on the harness connector and the other lead to battery negative. If the voltage is correct, the most likely cause is the sensor itself. This can be confirmed by connecting a fuse jumper between the 2 sensor terminals whilst observing the scan tool readings. If the parameter changes, then the sensor is the fault. If there wasn't 5 volts on the signal wire, then we need to check for a short to ground. To do this, move the lead from battery negative to battery positive. You should see 0 volts. If there is battery voltage, there will be a short to ground in the harness. Turn the ignition off and disconnect the ECM. Turn the ignition back on and retest again. If the voltage is still present, the short to ground will be in the harness. If the voltage is now gone, then it's either a short to ground on another wire from the ECM or the ECM itself. To test the harness, set the multimeter to ohms and check for continuity between the signal terminal at the sensor harness connector and each terminal on the ECM connector. If there is no fault found here, the ECM will have an internal short to ground. That's the diagnosis of P0522. I've shown you the steps on how to find the possible faults that can cause these DTCs. Understanding how the sensor works will help with diagnosis. And remember, keeping up to date with technology is essential in today's automotive industry. Thanks for watching and bye for now.